Hi, folks. Well, after about 2 weeks, I finished the set of British soldiers, British Infantry, from Masterbox. This lovely kit was a Christmas gift from my son, along with another Masterbox kit, also Great War soldiers, German and British, which I finished a few days ago. That, of course, was my appreciation build for Tom White, Ramblers 69. And that set of figures and a small base are winging their way to Florida as I speak, or at least I hope they are. Okay, back to this project. What I like and what I don't like about Masterbox. Very minor kvetching about what I don't like. I hate the boxes themselves. Masterbox is a great name for a company, but their boxes certainly are not masterpieces. They are the envelope style rather than the separate top and bottom, and hate that. Second thing I hate is the painting guides on the back are absolutely ludicrous. Now, one could possibly, and I tried to rely on this magnificent box art, which is by Varavin. Anyway, Masterbox is a Ukrainian company, and I'd highly recommend them for military models. Certainly their figures. I'm familiar now with, I guess, about 3 kits. Okay, I digress. The box art is freaking amazing. Of course, it's very nuanced and evocative, and I'm almost hesitant to show my finished product. I probably won't scroll back to this. Despite the fact that the painting guide on the back, such as it is not very helpful, to put it mildly. I did rely on some of the cheats from the Tamiya kit, also of Great War soldiers, to identify base colors for various items. So, easy workaround. Let's see, now that I've disparaged the box itself, let's talk about the quality of the figures. Really good. That's a technical term, of course. No, actually, they are quite good for plastic. Obviously, there are resin figures that will exceed them in level of detail. Really, the only things I'm going to critique or criticize is, like most plastic figures, the molding processes or injection molding processes, I understand it, don't do ears too well. Now, the other thing that happens is the opposite of sink marks. I'm going to call them, they wouldn't be sink, but reverse sink bumps or circles. It's amazing how those can mysteriously appear in odd places after you've sanded, cut, assembled, primed, and you don't notice them until you've got the base color on. There are still 1 or 2 of those left on these soldiers, which I will have to attend to at some point in time. Let's see, what else about the figures? Oh yes, precision is required. I guess one shouldn't call that a criticism in terms of assembly, and we'll go to that now. So, let's take a look at the squad. And as I said, we don't have that dark, evocative mode here. I wasn't quite able to emulate that, but I am happy with how the painting turned out. I managed to get through what I called the awkward phase with adding highlights and shading, and I hope some depth. And I've got the colors where I want them, and yeah, I'm pretty pleased. But let's take a look at the 5 figures in a little more detail. My Lewis gunner over here on the left. Oh, and as you can see, the four enlisted men. Maybe this guy's a non-com. I'm not sure. The Lewis gunner, but they're staring or listening or perhaps zoning out, whatever their officer is exhorting them to. He's gesturing off into the distance as he is in the box art, maybe not so far distance. And my feeling is definitely from the box art, if not my figures, they're not terribly enthused about what's in store for them. But anyway, here is the Lewis gunner. And first of all, when I had done the base colors, I was less than enthusiastic about what I laid down for the jerkins on the enlisted men. I had used AK red-brown. It was a bit dark, but that was okay. And we'll get into the color call-outs, but that got lightened and brightened with a different mid-tone shade or lighter shade. I forget the nomenclature, but I'm pretty happy with how the painting turned out on these guys. Now, I mentioned about assembly required, and in most cases, I found out, because I generally put weapons on or external weapons at the very end, they just get very awkward to paint if you've added them to the figure right away. There are exceptions, of course. And what I discovered with all of these figures is you have to have the arm positions absolutely exact down to the fraction of a millimeter to get the proper positioning of the hand with the weapon, in this case a Lewis gun. And his left arm, left hand there, should have been just a fraction higher. I don't think I'm going to break the arm off and risk damage because it was cemented in there pretty good with plastic cement, modeling cement. So just not quite right. The other thing is this fellow. Let's turn him here. Well, let's just cut to the chase. I yanked off the pouch for the entrenching tool, the blade of the entrenching tool, the shovel blade. He doesn't have his on. I put it on too far back, and the back attachment was hanging out in the air. There was no excuse to continue on at that point, but I soldiered on and painted him up anyway, but it just looked odd. So I have popped that off. I think I can get it in the right place. The key thing will be whether it will slip, the front edge will slip under the right arm properly, or I'll have to pull that out. Otherwise, not much more in terms of critical, I guess, to say about the Lewis gunner. Here is another figure, listed man. Now, would a fellow in a small group have a rifle cocked over his shoulder with the barrel pointing out like that? Now, in the box art, one might notice that the barrel is tipped down. I don't know if to a safe spot or not, but in my case, it's pretty much straight across. Why? Well, the left arm is just a fraction too high. That one I think I'm going to try and correct at some point. And otherwise, same color scheme. They're all of the enlisted men are wearing the leather jerkins over their khaki tunics. And the canvas bags are in a very light buff color. The leather pouches are in a darker brown leather. Okay, here is the fellow who's carrying either a lunch pail or, I guess, a mine. So there's his mine, there's his rifle. You might note that with these two fellows, the slings are not yet on the rifles. Not an issue to put on this one. I can do that without detaching the rifle. By the way, I finally did get the arm in the correct position for holding this weapon. At least, you know, 1 out of 3. But this guy, in order to do the sling, I'm going to have to pull the rifle off, no big deal. I'll probably do that when I, you know, detach the arm and reposition it just a little bit. So at least the barrel of the gun will be pointing downwards as opposed to straight across. Maybe someday. Okay, what else? Oh, yes. Well, during the painting process, and I'll bring it up with this fellow, I concluded that of the 5 figures with 10 eyes, I got 9 of them pretty much where I wanted. This guy is a little gooch-eyed. It depends on how it's showing. His left eye is just a fraction too high. And I could fix that if I were able to get a very tiny paintbrush in and put a line across the top of the colored part. Would that be the iris? The iris, yes. But I've already put the helmet on, and I'm spending way too much time talking about his eye. Probably going to just leave it alone. The other thing here, which is just going to have to be the way it is these jerkins were separate components in all cases, and the right side, which is the left side facing here, is slightly off. So a lot of my stuff and a lot of my issues are more about assembly, which I'm maybe a bit too careless about than they are about painting. Okay, here's the young fellow. He's wearing a knit cap underneath his helmet, and the issue there is the sling, which isn't quite where it should be. Well, it actually isn't where it should be at all, at least on the bottom. So that's going to have to be a redo. But I wanted to get this project done. And so at some point, we'll fix that. I will fix that. Now, turning to my officer, I'm kind of pleased to say I don't have anything that I think needs a redo or further touch-up. I'm going to leave well enough alone. Kind of tricky to paint with that raised collar, but I knew that going in. I've had that issue with aviators with their fur collars, miniature figures, and I'm pretty pleased with this guy. Let's see if I can give these guys a... Let's see, can I get a... where do I go here to get a... There we go. It takes a while for this phone to do a focus. All right. Hopefully. So... I should get a little motorized table. I should get a lot of things. I should learn how to do video editing. Yeah, that's just not going to happen. But if you've watched my channel, you folks already know that. Okay, this has already gone way too long, but a quick discussion about the colors, those that I mostly didn't mention in my previous video. I used mud brown as the overlay or glazing on the jerkins, and that got it to a much lighter and a bit more reddish tone shade that I wanted. Quite happy about that. What I've done always, khaki brown from Vallejo is the glazing I did over the Tamiya khaki, which is a green tone. And so I added that, and that was appeared on the trousers, sleeves, tunics for all of the soldiers. Now, I had mentioned, I keep calling it ochre yellow, which is kind of redundant. The actual name of the color, but part of it's almost worn off. AK ochre khaki was the original, was the base color, is the base color of the officer's trench coat here. But let's see if I can get that in focus. But I knew that was going to end up too dark, after I shaded it. So I needed to put some highlights, quite a bit of highlighting in, and I did that by making a mixture of ochre khaki with Vallejo white and significantly lightening up the trench coat. And then, of course, my go-to, which is 502 or Abteilung 502, the burnt umber oil paint. And basically, I applied that very liberally to the trench coat and to everything that was in Tamiya khaki, the green. And after applying that and smearing it on, I tried as best I could to wipe it off, which I knew was going to leave the dark shade of burnt umber or darker shade of burnt umber in the recesses, and stain a little bit and give a little bit of stain to the rest of the surfaces, which I really liked. I used scale color or scale 75 brown leather on ammunition pouches, belts, and shoes and boots, and then I weathered it a bit, did some contrast with some other colors and tried to give it a little bit of weathering by doing some dry brushing with, I think I used mud brown. German gray-green primer from AK was the base color for the helmets. And again, then I gave them sort of a, not scuffed, but weathered or dirtier look with the the burnt umber from oil paint from Abteilung 502. I've mentioned this before, but this particular black from Model Air from Vallejo is actually, what do I want to call now? It's not black. It's really gunmetal. And of course used that for the Lewis gun, barrels, the lunch pail / mine, things like that. And just a little bit of dotting with Pro Acryl Bronze for buttons, buckles, and stuff. So that's the color call out. This video has become inordinately long. But then I did spend a bit more time on this project, but hey, there were 5 of them to do. And, at some point, I'll do the fixes, but it is time to drum roll, get on to the stalled aircraft or airplane projects that are sitting behind me, at least one of them. And you all will find out more about that later. Thanks for watching, folks.